Today we're going to talk about non-technical stuff, but like a soft skills that we need actually, that I think important and in our work life. Um, and actually, this topic is not only important when you work in software industry, but when you work in any kind of setup where you have to collaborate with peoples that you are collaborating in a team. That is, the topic is actually alignment and disagreement, especially the disagreement part. Right. So we're going to talk about why disagreement is actually important to exist and how to create a comfortable and safe environment, culture to have disagreement, and finally, how to get alignment out of disagreement. So, first and foremost, is about the existence, right? Disagreement is quite important because when you are disagreeing on something, it means you are voicing your opinion. When you have opinion, it means you take part of the ownership of the topic. And that's important because that's what makes whatever is being the problem or the project or the problem that you're trying to solve become having the best kind of solution they have. Nobody is perfect, right? That's why we have a team. That's why we are having a discussion. That's why we are having disagreement. And this is where um, people are messing up with what you call it, trying to mesh with each other to get actually the best to get the best solution possible. The solution starting from someone proposing it, somebody else pointing out points that they are disagreeing with, and then talk about the disagreement and see the different perspective of why this part have to be changed and so forth. So that's why it's important because disagreement not only at the final end, of course, it's about getting the best decision uh, to solve some problems, but not only that, at the intrinsically it's also helpful because disagreement means the team members taking explicitly ownership of it. Try to think about it. When you are ever in a discussion, part of a discussion group, like when you are in a class, when you were in school, and so forth, if you ask something or you voice your opinion at that session, compare it to the session when you are completely silent about it. Try to remember which one you remember the most, which one uh, makes your brains works more, makes you own have more feelings of ownership about the session. Right. So and that means that will actually promote also the the continuations in of the solutions. So the discussions, disagreement at that session itself is important to get the best decision, but best decision will be resulted in execution. And execution is a long period, halls of process. So when you have ownership, it's actually an investment towards the team to actually work on to always make sure that the executions and all the unexpected problem that comes upon it will get a better and better decisions. So that's why disagreement is important because we need that various perspective to get out the best decision to make us have ownership, and ownership is important also for ourselves as an individual that works in a team. Why? Because when you have ownership, it means your work is more meaningful. We are working at least at hours for 5 days a week, right? So imagine that if you don't have any kind of feeling of ownership in your job, it will be a very mundane and boring job, and it's torture for yourself. You might want to change job because it's important on how a big chunk of the percentage of time in your life and how you actually treat it, work upon it, right? So that's all about the importance of disagreement. Why it's important not only for the individual but also for the organization. Second is about how to create comfort and safe environment about this. Why why this second topic subtopic about this? Because disagreement, if it's handled wrongly, it can result in tensions between relationship. Why? Because we are human. We are human. We have ego. The good part about disagreement is we have ownership. But one part of the ownership is the we have ego inside of it. That's what we need to accept first and foremost. That I, as a human, have ego. So when someone disagree with me, it means they are attacking my opinion in some levels of ways. And the first animal instinct that human usually have is to, of course, not happy with such kind of disagreement. That's why we have to get into acceptance that we do have ego, and when people disagree, we need to remember what is the importance of disagreement, what is the benefit of having disagreement, and then after that, we also need to have empathy. We have to at least put effort to put ourselves in the other people's shoes to understand, to try to understand why they are disagreeing. That's important. So first, accept yourself that uh, we do have ego. So we know that there could be some what do you call it, unconscious reactions, especially if we are not trained. We are not experiencing all these things earlier in our livelihood. It's different. Sometimes people already experience this, that disagreement and so on, and they already be matured enough to understand and finally grow themselves into someone who can handle disagreement well. But if you don't, yeah, it's okay because we are human. We are growing, improving every day. As long as we can understand what's the benefit towards not only ourselves but also the environment surrounding us, the other people that we interact with, then we should take effort to make a better self of our own so that we can get the best out of our life. So first, control yourself, understand that you could have an unconscious reaction towards it, and then that's when you accept yourself and understand this, it is easier to be consciously uh, control yourself, right? And then after that is actually to remember the benefit, because controlling uh, is is about understanding the benefit of it, understanding what is the best for the life, not only you but also the other people. That's what a positive way to control, because other thing, the other way to actually not reacting your unconscious base is actually to suppress it, which is not good because that will be stressful. Suppressing it means just you don't want to do it, but actually you don't know why, you don't agree, or you don't know what is the benefit out of not doing that. So that's why control yourself, and then put yourself, remember, by remembering the benefit of disagreement, that put yourself in other people's shoes. Because in the end, when people disagreeing with us, we have to listen. Listening is about empathy, putting ourselves in their perspective. When we try to put ourselves in their perspective, we can understand what point they are disagreeing about. And that's what helps to actually get into best decision. So if people who are disagreeing not having empathy, highly chance that disagreement will not be resulted in the best decision, because it will just be a clash of ego. That's why disagreement can be converted in the main ingredient to convert disagreement into best decision is empathy. Okay, and then that's how we try to make a comfortable and safe environment by control what we can control within ourselves. So we have to control our reaction towards disagreement. Now the second part is actually the organization itself. The best disagreement can be created by the organization explicitly have mentioned the cultures of disagreement. So having an explicit values that the organization actually value disagreement, nurture it, giving explanations about it is important. It's not. It's important because it's create the umbrella of how people works. Why? Because when we are working some with people from various countries, and people from different countries have different levels of their vocal or how they vocal sounding their opinions. For example, in back in my country, uh, where I grow up with, we are from not so not people who are what you call it, who has the culture to sound their opinion openly right now. It's even to the point that at one point in our education system, I think it's starting when I was in high schools, uh, the education system trying to promote so that the student actually more active in the classroom. Most of the time, back when I was like in elementary school and junior high school, most of the time we are just listening to the teacher. We don't like asking questions. Very rare that we are asking questions and so forth. That's that's why it's even to the point that the whole school trying to make us more active. Um, then that was like decades ago, of course. So things starting to be different because voicing opinion is important. Like what it's the same like the importance of disagreement, ownership, and then also getting the best decisions ever. Now that's why having the organization explicitly mentioning this disagreement is important. That's actually why I create this video too, right? This kind of video that actually is sharing this kinds of mindset help when people watch this. Of course, the people who watch it at least give a chance for their mind to think about whether they are agreeing with what I'm pointing out here, where you are aligned with me that disagreement is important, that disagreement that we when we disagreeing and when we face disagreement, we need to make it as much as possible to take benefit of it, but making it comfortable, having empathy out of it so that everything can get into best decision ever. So that's what I think as what's important to make it comfortable and safe, because if this is not a safe environment, disagreement will lead into deteriorations of relationship, and also and once it's deteriorate, disagreement become just a trial to actually defame, to actually mock the other party, which has become a useless disagreement. Right? It's an empty debate. It's become an empty debate. That's why keeping a good relationship while disagreeing with staff is very important to have a great uh, organization. That's why I also try not to joke around too much when you are in a disagreement situations, because that could hurt someone ego, and when it hurt too much, uh, it could deteriorated into that toxic relationship. So try to balance your joke, or whenever disagreement, especially sense it when disagreement tension starting to be to heighten. And also it's important not to joke someone disagreement, because that could become what you call it, discouragement for people to voice their opinion. And especially in the early days when they are just joining a team and so on, the knowledge base are actually also not as deep as people who has worked there for years, right? So understand this, especially if you are the more senior people in terms of experience, that you have been years there. Understand it that um, new people will not have all the background knowledge you have. So sometimes their questions or their disagreement might be something that is that is not totally uh, that has the what you call it, drawbacks of not having all the the background knowledge you have. But also think about it this way: most of the time, that kind of opinion from people who don't have years of back experience is actually useful, because they manage to get the point that is that you don't aware of, because of your bias of the years of experience, and something that become normal to you that actually can be improved. So that's about how to create comfort and safe environment about disagreeing. Now, disagreeing by itself is not useful. Disagreeing get it's well, it's useful, but the top usefulness of it is if it can produce alignment, and then everybody agree, align, and then work to their heart contents about the projects or about the program. Yeah? So getting alignment is important. Disagreeing is the first step. Getting alignment is the best outcome you can get. So alignment is about people agreeing to work on it, and in a certain way agreeing about the decisions out of it, agreeing about the solution details about towards the problems. Now, how to get it? First of all, of course, all if the people that are disagreeing have the empathy, that's one of it. So basically understand, collect all the pros and cons, explicitly list that down, the pros and cons of the disagreement. Visual disagreement means there are two alternative things, right? Either the yes or the no, and so forth. So take out all these alternatives, and then list down the pros and cons, and then discuss it. So try to break it down, so that people that you are explicitly have a context of what actually to be aligned upon. So first break it down, discuss it, because the best discussions is when you actually the parties who are disagreeing actually getting into the decisions by understanding fully well the point of view, the pros and cons that each of the disagreeing party has. So that's it. But sometimes it's just not reaching solutions still. This is where actually senior leadership comes in. Because in the end, disagreement has to be time boxed. There will always be trade-off in any kind of decisions, and then we have to understand the context of the trade-off and then get alignment. So at one point, if disagreement, even after break it down and so on, still doesn't get the solutions, because of the trade-off of it is actually pretty hard for the disagreeing party to actually really accept one towards the others, and they do have valid reasons about it. What should an organization or team do? You should act, you should bias for action, you should decide something and then run it, execute it, and then learn from it and do retrospect after it. And then that's how the organization grow. So in the end, you have to get the sense when disagreement just get too long, and then agree to be aligned to choose one part of the alternative and take it. And sometimes if this is pretty hard to do, you escalate it to the senior leadership. That will be the greatest thing we can have when there are people who are more senior than us, and then help them to be the third opinion to reach a decision. Now the problem is when you are in a position where there is no higher leadership above you. For example, if you're starting your own company and so on, or you are in an executive positions already where you are the top leadership there, then it is important to have the culture to know that in the end we need to execute. We need to avoid paralysis analysis. And then the only best way is actually to experiment your decision. So take a decision, monitor it, measure it, and then get retrospective of it. So in the next cycle of discussions or something, another disagreement that is along the line, similar line of it, you know what is best. Then you can quote from your experience from previous situations. Or of course you can think about it like in the software industry we have this A/B experiments, right? A/B experiments to actually know what improvement actually do best, and then get the data of it. It's the similar concepts. Basically, when you are already trying your best to actually get what you call it, the best decision based on planning, in the end getting it executed and then recorded the result and then discussing it, that's the most that will be the real one, right? What we all talk about is theoretical in the end, but in the and then getting it practical and then making it into your arsenals of experience, that's how we grow, that's how an organization grow. So we don't always, not all problems can get their answer in a crisp way. There could be things that is just the trade-off is very hard to decide. At that time you just have to decide as a team, align with it. So this kind of other culture is also important, so that the disagreement can get into alignment, can get into execution, and whatever the result of that is actually can be used to improve the team in the futures. This alignment is important that all teams, even the one who disagreeing still, and they are aligned that they have to do this and they are taking ownership part of it, because once these things actually, this kind of cycles actually happening, when people are respecting, even if they are respecting a decision and do it with all their heart, because they understand that they know that they are trade-off and the trade-off cannot be easily decided, and then the continuation cycles when whatever the decision resulted in being discussed and become the arsenals of experience for the team, that what makes a team works best. So I think that's all about this topic, because in my experience of working, disagreement is very sensitive, and not having a matured enough organizations or team to handle disagreement can deteriorate stuff, especially if you are still young, and then for example, the most challenging things is when you were still when I was still young, and then I was building up a company with other young people where disagreement there is no established understanding yet about how to handle disagreement and so forth. And then the teams getting bigger, because when you just early started your your ideas or project, you usually started with your friends who you know for years. So sometimes it's just easier to handle disagreement and so forth, right? But once you expand the team, it becomes people who you never met before, that you don't have that years of relationship to build the rapport, the understanding, and the what you call it, the comfort of disagreeing while joking, for example. So that's when things getting hard. And usually this is what makes scaling team is a very tedious job when you are scaling your team. And also that's if you build your own companies. If you work in your in an organization, this kind of thing also helpful, because that in the end, this is what makes you happy to go to work while producing something that you have big feelings of ownership about it. That's how we try to make the large percentage of our lifetime actually something meaningful. And if this video helpful and you like more about it, let me know in the comment. Subscribe and hit the like button. Okay, that's it. Thank you.